They say history remembers kings and generals, but the true heart of civilization beats in the hands of its ordinary people. Think of Babylon, the city of wonders, with its towering walls and golden temples. But behind those marvels were countless men and women whose names were never carved in stone. Among them was a simple potter, a man whose wheel turned clay into the vessels of daily life, quietly shaping one of the world's greatest empires. His story wasn't written in royal decrees, but it lived on in every shard of pottery unearthed by time. Today, we remember the potter of Babylon. The city he called home was a jewel of Mesopotamia. Its streets buzzed with the voices of merchants, priests, and travelers. The mighty Euphrates River flowed like a silver ribbon through its heart, feeding gardens and markets. From the towering ziggurat of Marduk to the brilliant blue Ishtar Gate, Babylon shone with power and pride. Yet, for the potter, these wonders were just the backdrop to his life. His world was a small workshop of clay, dust, and fire. He began his day before the sun crested the city walls, kneeling at his wheel, his hands pressing earth into form. To him, clay was more than just soil. In his touch, it carried the life of his people. He shaped jars that held grain for the hungry, cups that carried water for the thirsty, and lamps that burned softly in homes at night. Each vessel was humble, but together they were the very bones of Babylon. Without them, no palace could feast, no temple could offer wine, and no family could endure. His art wasn't about glory, but survival, and in that lay a different, more profound kind of power. The potter's life wasn't easy. His back bent with labor, his fingers cracked from the heat of the kiln, and his lungs filled with dust. He lived in a small quarter of the city, among other craftsmen whose names were as invisible as his own. The scribes wrote of kings and their conquests, of priests and their gods, but never of the man who shaped the very clay beneath their feet. Yet he endured, year after year, shaping vessels for a city that would never know his name. But there was a quiet wisdom in his silence. As he worked, he listened to the world. He heard merchants in the marketplace speak of distant wars. He heard whispers of kings who dreamed of empire. He heard prayers to God's promising protection and curses against those who threatened Babylon. He heard laughter in the evenings and morning when plague or famine struck. Through it all, he worked as steady as the river flowing past the city walls. When his neighbors asked him how he bore the weight of being forgotten, he would smile and say, "Clay remembers." And perhaps he was right. Pottery endures where monuments fall. Long after palaces crumble and kings are forgotten, the humble cup and the broken shard remain. They carry the fingerprints of their makers, pressed into eternity. So, when Babylon finally fell, when its walls cracked under the might of Cyrus the Great and the Persians marched through the Ishtar Gate, the potter's life, like countless others, was swept into silence. His workshop grew cold, his wheel stood still, his name buried forever. But the clay did remember. Centuries later, when archaeologists brushed away the dust of ages, It wasn't the crowns of Babylon's kings that told the story of daily life. It was the fragments of pottery, painted with simple designs, worn with use, carrying faint traces of food and fire. Each piece was a voice from the forgotten, speaking of meals shared, water poured, and lamps lit against the dark. And among those fragments, surely, was the hand of our potter, his quiet craft speaking to us across thousands of years. His story isn't written in words, but in touch. Every groove on a jar, every curve of a cup carries the rhythm of his wheel and the patience of his hands. While kings built empires that collapsed, the potter built vessels that endured, and in that endurance he became immortal. The tale of the potter of Babylon is the tale of humanity itself. For every great empire that has risen, there were countless hands that built it. Hands that tilled fields, shaped clay, forged iron, and raised children. They are not remembered by name, but they are remembered in essence. Because without them, there would be no kings, no temples, no cities. The potter reminds us that true greatness is found not only in crowns of gold, but also in hands covered in earth. So the next time you think of Babylon, don't just remember the towering ziggurat or the dazzling gates. Remember also the man in his dusty workshop, turning clay beneath his palms, shaping the vessels that carried the very lifeblood of a civilization. His wheel turned quietly, but in its rhythm the heart of Babylon beat. And though his name is lost, his legacy endures in every fragment that time refused to erase. The potter of Babylon lived unseen and died unrecorded, but he remains eternal in the clay that remembers him. And in his silence, he speaks to us, still reminding us that history belongs not only to the mighty, but to the humble, whose hands shaped the world without ever claiming it. If this story of the Potter of Babylon has touched you, then join us on our journey to rediscover the forgotten lives that built our world. Subscribe to our channel and help us bring back the voices buried beneath time. Share this story with those who love history and tell us in the comments whose hidden legacy you would like to hear next. Together, let's ensure the forgotten are remembered once more. Thanks for watching.